Welcome to the next interview in the series of celebrating International Women's Day 2021. And today joining me is Michelle Turner. And Michelle is a destination wedding planner in Italy. Hello, Michelle.
Hello there, nice to meet you over Skype.
Yeah, it's nice to talk for a change. So far I've spoken to people who do coaching and things like that. So this is kind of a very, very different business that you work on, and the title kind of gives away what you do. But if you could just explain a bit about what prompted you to set up this business.
Okay, right. Many years ago, working for a tour operator, Citalia Specialised Businesses, and seeing them and other tour operators starting to go to this wedding business, sector. From that I started helping around and getting a bit of experience from it. There was obviously guests who were part of the tour operator going to weddings, etc. And it was just really so interesting because it's not just all the the love of all the pretty things and setting up. It was really assisting guests and brides with loads of other things, negative and positive parts of it, talking to them, helping with problems, all kinds of things. And after working with Citalia Specialised Businesses, we were trained a lot anyway with customer care and all of that. So it all just went in, the customer care and starting this wedding, my own little wedding company. And I've never looked back because it's opened up a lot of doors and a lot of experiences. So the title gives away what I do, but there's a lot more involved in it.
So if someone gets in touch with you and says that they would like to, come and have a wedding perhaps, what's the process that you then have to go through with them?
Sorry, what's
the process that you then go through with them?
Oh, right, okay then, sorry, I didn't, it wasn't very clear the line there. Okay, so they're getting in touch with me. Well, first of all, they're asking for the more popular places. They're saying they want this, that, the other. They've got all the dreams and ideas. So I just try to break it down into a bit of a reality, basically, and obviously with their budget, and giving them more choice as well, because obviously maybe from the English point of view, from England over there, looking at the main places. I mean, Italy is such a vast area and some gorgeous places that are maybe not just named as much as the more popular. So, and at the same time, letting them, introducing myself, letting them get to know me, and me getting to know them, basically. So it's becoming friends, it's becoming, just explaining, I explain just the reality of it all right from the beginning, because it's a very exciting thing for a lot of the couples to get in touch and start talking. So after listening to them talking, obviously, just, putting a bit more reality into it and explaining a lot of things. And
sorry, I was just going to say, reality in what way?
Well, reality as in, obviously the budget, obviously travelling procedures and where they want to go, and they might be looking at some places just incredibly difficult to get to. So you're obviously asking, well, what about your guests? Because the guests for the weddings are actually the priority. Strangely enough, the bride and groom, on the day they're the priority, but before they're not. You're thinking about the guests, children, elderly, disabled. So when you're talking about the area and the venues and everything, there's there's all those little normal, things to highlight to them before they get carried away. And up until now, maybe we'll start again in the future. A lot of couples coming to visit, different areas or different venues to show them, take them on this walkabout, as I call it, and then they can make, over 10 years now, nearly 15 years now, a lot of couples saying, oh, thank goodness we came over, because it puts, it makes it all the day, the walkabout, and then they can go back and explain to their family and friends, etc. So that's one of the main things.
So you're based in Cilento, an area that perhaps not many tourists go to. So how would you explain Cilento to someone who's never been?
Okay, well, I came here in 1992 to actually live. I came Bologna years before then on holiday. And Cilento, I've nicknamed Cilento the Italian part of Italy. That's been my nickname and phrase here since forever, because it's just Italian. It's not like going to one of the more popular places, the Amalfi Coast next door, which is wonderful. Which is, I mean, I do personally work all over Italy. I've got a lot of experiences in other places, and I do work a lot on the Amalfi Coast as well. But it's a bit more difficult to find those little Englishy things or English contact, etc. here. But it's just so real. It's just so Italian. It's just so so true. So I wouldn't say basic, because it's not basic, but it's not your big glamorous places that you go to on holiday and all cosmopolitan and all very touristy. It's the real Italy. I'm sure there are. I'm saying I'm sure there are other places in Italy like this as well. But Cilento here, I mean, we're only an hour and a half from Naples Airport, straight down the road, direct trains, very easy to get to. So I'm always promoting this area because this is where I live, and 80% of my business does come here, because obviously people, when they're getting in touch with me, couples, they're asking for other areas, but once I start to explain this area to give them a bit of choice, 80% of those people do come here and visit, and they marry here. And always people, they always come back on holiday, they always come back to visit, always. Yeah. So everyone falls in love with it, and that's it, and they always come back, which is,
that's really nice. Yeah. And so if it's like the real Italy, if you like, is it more helpful if you can speak a few words of Italian, or are the traders able to speak English to you?
I mean, yeah, you know, you can get by. It's not like you're coming here and there's just no English or whatever. I mean, obviously, as you know, I collaborate with one of the biggest tourist associations here. I know there's over 10 offices here, and you know, a lot of English-speaking staff, and of course, you know, they all have like a 24-hour sort of like contact concierge, 2 or 3 numbers to contact, and yeah, going around, you'd be surprised how many people do speak enough English, you know, to give an excellent service, to give people what they need. Even in the hospitals, and you know, I have had hospital episodes, you know, little broken limbs and twisted ankles and things.
Now you're selling it.
Sorry?
I said, now you're selling it.
No, it's just it's just true, because that's what it is. So, yeah. You know, it's, I can't say more than that. You've actually visited here as well, so I'm sure you've got an idea of what I'm talking about. So
yeah. And so you said that you do other destinations in Italy. What other places do you?
Amalfi Coast, obviously, Lake Garda, Rome, Tuscany, and obviously with that, you know, obviously collaborating with people who, I like to collaborate with people who live in those areas, you know, like fellow colleagues who can assist, you know, who can guide me as well, because I think there's nothing better than having somebody on site for this.
So when you invite people to come and do a walk around with you, if it's somewhere outside of Cilento and outside of the south, do you go and meet them, or do you use a local person to do that?
It really depends. It just depends on so many things. Wanted for the wedding, the time, the period, when they can get over, if I'm available, or if you know, my colleague can do it. It depends. You know, I mean, most times I do try to visit them, but it's not always possible. It's not always physical, unfortunately.
But to put the wedding together, there must be so many different strings that you need to be pulling to make it all come together on that day.
Yeah, there's a lot, because it's not really just based around the wedding day. It's based around all these couples with all their guests arriving in Italy. You know, so from the airport until the day, you know, the day they arrive until the day they leave. You know, it's like, well, that's how. I mean, some wedding planners don't. They just do the wedding day. Now, But for me, it's like a full concierge service, you know, while they're here.
Yes.
We may leave and they may still have guests still staying here a few days on. My office and my service is completely available to them for just their general holiday, their etc. So
That's nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think because, like you say, you are in a kind of isolated area, if you like. For those guests that stay on, it's reassuring to know that if they, you know, need something or they need to ring someone because something's not quite right in, you know, their day, that you're there and they can do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, you've got to add that. Well, you've got to have that extra service. I think it's not just the wedding day and then everything's gone. Absolutely not. It's before, during, and after, as I always say. So, and obviously very discreetly as well. You know, some people on holiday they just don't want to see you, which is absolutely fine.
Mm.
You know, I mean, my office is all guiding everything, coordinating everything anyway. So, always available for them, and it's just a very sort of I just try to keep it a very friendly, orientated process, but obviously very professional, sticking, you know, to the guidelines and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. How have you seen wedding fashions change over the years since you've been doing the weddings?
Yeah, they have changed. Well, in the beginning, it was like every year it changed because there was always some kind of new fashion kind of came out for one thing or another, and you were trying to keep up with it. Even though most people came here, they just seemed to accept for what it was. They just thought, oh yeah, this is an Italian wedding in Italy. This is how it is, you know. And I always encourage people, you know, to add into, you know, all their personal things and everything, you know, to always add their part of it, obviously. But yeah, it changes from one year to the next. I mean, obviously now with COVID and everything, everyone's talking about these micro weddings and everything, smaller weddings, but the requests that are coming through, the groups are doubling in size, so I don't know where this micro weddings is. You're actually thinking, oh my God, what have I missed here? And various colleagues as well, because I do have a guy who works for me. He's an Indian wedding specialist, you know, because we've had a couple of experiences with weddings and everything. And obviously, you know, the requests coming through, you know, you could talk about 222 onwards, because we always work about a year or more in advance. The groups are not micro. Maybe it's just literally sticking to 221 micro weddings, but then again, through this summer, our colleagues, you know, they have big group weddings, then they're still going ahead, they're still, so micro weddings still have to have sort of a request or an experience with that. You know, I mean, I have, in the years, I have done weddings for just the bride and groom elopements. I've done weddings for 5, for 10, 15, 20 people, 30 people. So they've always been there, those weddings, they've always been there for what, not because of the COVID, these what they're calling now micro weddings, which I suppose is what the smaller weddings were in the beginning anyway. They've always been there. So I don't know, personally speaking, and a lot of friends who are colleagues anyway are in touch all the time, we are getting requests for larger groups all the time. Obviously we are talking about 222, 223, and 220. The larger groups that were already booked, they're all still going ahead. But then still, you know, obviously a month or so before the wedding, things could change. There could be people who can't come, whatever. So 221 is still very, very up in the air, which I personally predicted anyway, but, you know, and I know some other people did anyway. We did predict that straight away from last year anyway, that it was going to be up in the air. 222 was starting to settle back into a rhythm. Not normal, but
yeah, but getting back that way.
We'll have rules and regulations to follow, which we can't even sort of put down on a list at the moment, because these things all have to come through from the governments, from the town halls, from the venues, etc. But once they come through, well, that's fine. You know, you just follow those guidelines.
I felt so sorry for bride and grooms, because there's been so many stories, particularly last year, with people planned to get married early year, and then a couple I was listening to on the news later on in the year they'd cancelled the early wedding, they had no choice. They rearranged for October, November time, and they had to cancel again because, you know, again, lockdowns were in everywhere, and it's just, it must be heartbreaking. You know, the wedding is about being excited and having a set date to get married, and to not be able to properly look forward to it because will you be able to or not?
Out of our hands.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I haven't had anybody that's actually cancelled. They've changed the date, so that's good. But unfortunately, people who, I mean, that are, you know, I have had a colleague who tells me she's had experience with a couple who just, you know, 2 or 3 times they just said they can't take it anymore, changing. They're just cancelling and that's it, you know, which is a shame because it will happen to a lot of people like that, unfortunately. But it's just out of everybody's hands.
So the other people I've spoken to this week, they've been coaches of some description, and in the main they've just been able to change their business to an online version. With you, you don't get that option. So what happened? Did you just close down completely?
Well, not that you close down completely, because as I say, we're always working about a year in advance anyway. So you're still thinking ahead, you know, you're still thinking ahead. I mean, obviously, this, you know, you haven't done anything physically. You know, it's just been a lot. It's been like triple office work, to, you know, to change, to, you know, all of the changes, the rescheduling, all that kind of stuff, and then plus thinking about next year, the year ahead, you know, the requests and everything coming in. So office style, it's just made it really crazy. Physically, obviously, I haven't done anything because we couldn't. So a lot of work in the office, a lot. Yeah.
And so if people listening to this interview want to get married with you or know of people that, you know, would be interested, how can they reach you?
Right, okay, well, I have a small website, italybrideandgroomweddings.com, thank you. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, I have pages there. And
under Italy Bride and Groom Weddings.
Italy Bride and Groom Weddings, yes. And under no obligation, any of these couples, I've always worked like this. It's, you can, you know, get in touch for information. It doesn't mean to say that, you know, you, Michelle, is going to be your wedding planner, whatever. Even information, a guideline, anything. That's been a lot of my service as well, which I'm happy to give. And you know, all these couples getting married, you know, not everyone needs the assistant or wants that. It is, I do have to admit though, there are a lot of people who find an English lady living in Italy. I'm not the only one, we are an awful lot. Living on site, as we call it, it is an advantage because, you know, just to balance things out, Italy, England, it does make a difference. And living on site, you can give a lot of extra information, really detailed, real information.
Yes.
That maybe couldn't be given, you know, if not. And I've always been very that I really do stick to the budget with the bride and groom. You know, even help them save on the budget, you could say, because some things aren't necessary. You know, some things are, you know, I can help them sort of get the best, but you know, sometimes it's a lot of things aren't necessary to spend on, or included anyway, things like that. Just, I don't know, I suppose I'm a little bit of a mother really. Once the couple, you know, get in touch, I do like to look after them and just tell everything what it is, really.
That must be so reassuring, you know, because like you say, you live there, you know the area inside out, you know the best places to go and get things from, and at the best prices, and the best people to go to for just general food, you know, while they're there with you, not necessarily on the wedding day.
But it's not just, I always say to bride and groom, you know, I work with everybody. So if I'm recommending places and they're on Google and they say somewhere else that they really like, I always say, well, great, let's get in touch with them. Let's go and check it out. Let's get the prices. Let's see what they can do. And that happens, you know, quite a lot. Absolutely fine. I do not sort of limit myself. I work with everyone. to go along with the bride and groom, what they're looking for, their budgets, all that kind of thing. And not keep talking about budgets, but it really is very important that for the wedding, obviously. So if I'm recommending places, I don't want anyone to ever think that, oh, well, we found somewhere that, you know, absolutely perfect, let's go and check it out. And it has happened, and I suppose that's how it's grown, that there's so much choice anyway. All that, you know, to be able to find all these places. Some places that have never had the experience of weddings, and then maybe this couple have ended up having their, you know, they've been the first wedding there. And it's been perfect, but as I say, I'm here on site, but obviously in Italy anyway, to go to other regions a bit nearer, and I actually just get in my car or get on a train and go and check these places out. And you know, obviously you get information of email and everything as well, but there's nothing better than actually seeing something real.
Yes. Yeah. But that's reassuring too, because so many places you imagine that they'd have traders that they work with, and it's like a menu of it's this person for that and this person for the other. But for them to be able to say, well, we've seen this and we don't quite fancy that, can we go and look at that? I mean, because it's their day after all, and it's nice that it's not, you have to do this because this is who I've got the partnerships with.
Yeah, a bit of flexibility is wanted, you know. Obviously everybody has the rules and regulations and the limitations, which is fine, and then I'm just here to find that balance, just to get it right between the couple and the venue and all the services, so which usually goes fine.
Okay. Well, that's lovely, Michelle. Thank you so much for talking to me and telling me a bit about your business, and I hope that people that are watching, you know, come and try and see what services you have to offer.
Really interesting to be part of this for the International Wedding, you know, Women's Day, and wishing, well, we passed it now, I know it was on Sunday, but you know, wishing all the women well. And yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.